Hello, I'm Liz Hansen from Chicago Boudoir, and so excited to be with you tonight for our Live with Liz series. And this is an interview series that I do bringing on women in our community who are making a difference. And I'm so excited to have Emma Mulvany here tonight with us. Hi, Emma.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. So, Emma is an empowerment mentor, and we're so excited to hear from her and her expertise. To get us started, Emma, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I'm obviously a women's empowerment mentor, and I help women who are female entrepreneurs, women in leadership positions really own their power, reclaim their confidence so that they can have the impact that they're here to have. So I believe that we need more money, more resources, and more decision-making power in the hands of women. But that's going to be hard to do if we're not owning our roles, stepping into the roles, and feeling confident doing them. So that's where I come in.
Okay, I love that. We need more empowered women, and empowered women are going to change the world. So
Yes.
I love that work that you're doing. How did you get into doing this work?
So I think I got into it probably a similar way that a lot of coaches and mentors do. It was a mix of kind of following professional breadcrumbs, but also a personal awakening of my own. So I was a holistic nutritionist before this. And so I was helping women repair, heal their relationship to their body. And the more I was doing that, the more I realized it had nothing to do with the food and everything to do with how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to society in general, the messaging that we're taking in, the conditioning that we receive from the time that we are young, and essentially a feeling of not belonging to ourselves, not being able to make the decisions that we know are so right for us, and feeling disconnected from our bodies. And so I was kind of sitting with that feeling into what was coming up for me there. And then parallel was starting to wake up to all these moments in my personal life where I just felt a sense of abandoning myself, not trusting myself, not following my intuition when it was whispering or screaming at me. And the more like just evidence that I gathered of these like just tiny awakening moments started to pile up into something that I felt was going to eventually crack open. And it did. And yeah, I just felt, I think, so connected and so pulled to start to share that message that I started to weave it into the work that I was doing with women in the holistic nutrition realm. And then it just kind of snowballed and took on a life of its own from there because it's hard to articulate and it's not the most concise, but I do everything very intuitively. So it was kind of every little like yes that I said that I was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. And just kind of kept following these little like pebbles and whispers that were coming to me. And then it just kind of, I felt like landed me here. And once I made this decision, it was about a year and a half ago to fully transition to women's empowerment. It was like an arrival moment of like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is where it's igniting me. It's just coming through me in a sense. Felt like, just there was this message and this work on my heart that I had finally heard it and was ready to do it. So
I love that. So I feel like your work and my work in some ways dovetails. I have women
Mhm.
in the Chicago Boudoir Photography studio who are coming to get some sexy, sensual photos taken to feel more comfortable in their skin. And people are coming to you to find their path, their empowerment, their power. So tell me, can you relate, obviously without using names or revealing any information, can you tell us a story or a combination of stories of women who've come to work with you who have, you've really helped them make a difference in their lives? What did that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So I just wrapped up with a client that I tell people all the time, like, she was like the purple unicorn woman. Like, she was just like my ideal client coming at the exact perfect time for me. And um, she was working she came to me, she was just starting a new role at a startup and she was going to be their chief operations officer. And even though she had this huge resume of all these really kick ass things she had done, she was terrified and scared to get into this role. And she said, she's like, I know I'm smart. I know cognitively I can handle this. Like, I know all these things with my head as far as how I can perform in this role. But she said, but my outsides don't match my insides. I'm not projecting that same confidence outward that I know I should be feeling because this is what it says on paper, but I'm not able to show up that way. I'm not able to articulate the way that I want. I'm not able to just be that presence in the room that I need to be. And about a month in, she was sharing that, it was being reflected to her from her superiors, like, we need you to like really take the reins here and like own this. And so they said, what do you need? And she's like, I think I need like coaching. And so that's when I stepped in and started working with her. And we just wrapped up a 6-month package. It was so beautiful. She got to the end saying she can finally believe that what she can finally believe the feedback that she's receiving from other people as far as, you are meant for this, you are so good at this. She was turning around results for them that they weren't even expecting her to do within the first 6 months. And profound peace, she kept saying. And her results were just absolutely fantastic. She's still writing things up for me as far as a testimonial, just because she got so much out of the process, because she came to it also so willing and so vulnerable that every session she was just cracking open to more and more ways that she was conditioned not to use her voice and conditioned not to believe that she could really have an impact in this role. And so we really stripped away, kind of all of those layers and helped her to see, really, in a sense, the truest form of who she is. And that is somebody who is confident, who acts with integrity, who speaks with integrity, and really owns her power and her role. And so I could not be more proud of her and everything that she's accomplished.
I love hearing stories like that, women stepping into their power and their true role. That's what I want for every woman to find that. So you work primarily with women. You want women to gain their power and find their peace. What makes what makes this process different for women than it does typically for men? I mean, I know not everything's such a binary, but obviously working with women, you see things that are different with women than with men. Can you talk a little bit about that and how women have been socialized to believe different things or feel different things that you're working through?
Yeah, yeah. So I think you hit it a little right on the nose there, as far as men and women just have, from the time of birth, such a different experience of life. And so they are receiving very different messages from the moment that they are able to, the moment that they're sentient beings. So women are projected onto a lot, and we receive a lot of messaging around not being good enough. And everything that we receive, all of the messages, whether it's from society and media or our family or inherited patterns that we receive from, family and everything, um, it all serves to disconnect us from our power. And that is something that we don't see happening in men as much. Not to say that there isn't a population where that's occurring, but it's rampant among women. That is kind of the gold standard, is disconnecting a woman from her identity and her sovereignty. So knowing and feeling that we belong to ourselves, we are not property of another person. We are not someone to be projected onto. No one else is to make decisions for us. That
We're
aspect
also
of,
not objects.
yes, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. So much of my work right now is returning women to that belief and that knowing of sovereignty, that you are a whole entire being worthy of all of your needs, wants, dreams, desires, everything, without needing to prove anything, earn anything, deserve it. Um, it's just an inherent right that you have as a human being. And so it's less common for men to hear messages like that and to even need to reclaim a sense of sovereignty when they're not usually disconnected from it, but women are. And the more we go through life, the more we accumulate and continue to accumulate conditioning and layers of expectation that are placed on us that are just typically at odds with who we really are and what we're really here for. And that's what I love about working with women who are about, have kind of started to embrace the midlife transition. So if it's like late 30s, early 40s, 50s, it's so fun because, yes, like it's so fun because there's, even if they're not fully awake to like, man, this isn't working for me, there's an attitude that I love that is, I'm going to try and watch my language. It's like a no F's left to give. Like they know now they've reached this point in life of like, no more filter. Like it's time to live full out, to embrace what I'm here for, whether that's, something big and impactful within their community, or maybe it's just even within their homes. They're just ready to belong to themselves and have not just their needs met, not just survive, but live big dreams and live their potential. So I'm not
I
sure if
love
that completely answered the question about
one
men
thing
and
that you
women, but
one thing that you said that really struck out to me was the inherent your inherent value and power. So I loved the thinking about how when we hold a newborn baby, we love that baby and we value that baby. And that baby has done nothing. That baby has not earned a degree. That baby has not lost weight. That baby has not gotten a job. That baby has not started a business. And yet we know that baby is so valuable and lovable, right? And as you've grown up from baby to adulthood, you have not lost that value. There's like nothing you can do or not do that will diminish your value. But yet somehow we often forget that, right? We think that our value is based on our accomplishments or our achievements or what we do or our job or our profession, right? But something that I try to help women remember in the boudoir studio is that you are valuable, capable, beautiful, and worthy right here, right now, just as you are.
yeah.
Um, so I know you are probably consider yourself an entrepreneur. You're a small business owner. Talk to me a little bit about that. How did your journey to becoming a business owner how did you find I guess, the courage or the know-how to start a business on your own? You don't have a 9 to 5, you
Mhm.
don't have a corporate job. What was that like for you starting your own thing?
Yeah. So I'll start by saying I knew from the time I was young that I would start something. I was never that person that could follow authority super well. I didn't, I was kind of a disruptor from day one, I'll say. And I was very fortunate that my grandpa had his own business. And so when we were over there every week, he would constantly be telling us, and not in a pressure filled way, but just like, hey, this is really cool. Like, if you can be your own boss, like, come up with an idea, invent something, do something where you get the freedom to be your own person, essentially. That always stuck with me. And so I knew I would do something. But then, of course, get on the hamster wheel of life. And I was in kind of a more corporate setting for a little while. And then when I had my first daughter, I continued to just consult for that company. But I was starting to feel more and more. I was like, the time is coming. Like the intuitive nudge was there that the time was coming to do something different. And I don't know if it was a postpartum haze or what it was, but when my second daughter was 2 months old, I was like, yeah, right now. Like I'm going to start right now. And I had just gotten certified as a holistic nutritionist. And so jumped right into it. And I will say, it's not like it was exactly smooth sailing, but I think because I trusted myself and really followed, not just following my intuition, but um, one of my primary goals with starting my own business was saying that it had to match my life. I wasn't going to kind of contort and distort and like do this mental and physical gymnastics with my kids and my family life and everything to fit the business. The business had to fit me. And so it's always been this like very ever evolving, intuitive, flowy, cyclical way of doing business that at first I thought I'm doing this wrong. Like I'm not doing it the kind of like, the masculine way where it's linear and progressive and I'm doing all the things. I was really leaning into the seasons and really leaning into my own unique rhythms. And with that, I realized was this like superpower for actually getting results that were sustainable. That once I started to really map and mold my business to these feminine cycles and the seasonal cycles, I could catapult my success in certain areas. And so continuing to lean on that and come back to that with each child that we added into our family became really the backbone of my entrepreneurial journey. That if I look back, I can see all these patterns of just following the cycles and continuing to have it match me and continuing to trust that, what's meant for me and what's meant for this business is going to come. And I will say, since I landed, I'll say in women's empowerment, the satisfaction and then the amplification of results has really taken off and magnified, I think, by being with other women, being in groups and networking groups and support groups of other women, because it just becomes such a source of energy for me, to be with other women and to be in spaces like this. And it really makes the entrepreneurial journey as lonely as it can be, because it was very lonely for the first couple of years. It just makes it so much richer and such a deeper experience. And it just, I think, makes then the work that much more satisfying.
Yeah, I love hearing about that. I'm also an entrepreneur, a business owner. Everything you're saying resonates with
Mhm.
me as well. You mentioned that you're a mother. Talk to me a little bit about things you are doing or not doing with your children, and especially with your daughters, to
Mhm.
raise, the next generation of empowered women.
Yes. Okay. Where to start? So, the first thing is boundaries. So, I have massive, massive boundaries. And I say, to some people, they're pretty annoying, and to some people, they love them. So, um, I set a lot of boundaries around my time, around my attention. So, something that I've been doing with my kids since they were little, because we're still kind of in the trenches with them, is when there's more than one talking at once or more than one asking for something at once, I always say, like, mommy does one thing at a time. And I pick, whoever it is who gets to speak first. And it just, even though it doesn't always work perfectly and everyone can still talk at once, it sets this tone that hopefully as they grow up, they'll start to hear in their head like one thing at a time, and putting your intention on the one thing that is in front of you or that's important to you. And I have conversations with them regularly around, if you don't want to do something, if your body is telling you not to do something, listen to that, and instilling in that this like relationship where they communicate with their body to know what's right or wrong, for them. And I feel like so much. We talk a lot about nervous system regulation, a lot about body boundaries, and just knowing when boundaries have been crossed. And a big one that I will say we're working on now, and so we're not quite to the other side yet. I don't know if I have great wisdom, is rage and like what to do when you get angry, because that is something that, like, for the longest time, especially in my family, was not like acceptable out of the girls. So it was like we couldn't get angry, we couldn't express the anger.
Mm.
And so
Like
something
the
I'm working
women were
through.
not allowed to, like you could have a lot of emotions, but not that one.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
And so just noticing my own dialogue with them when they get angry. And then also kind of, doing my own inner work of changing my relationship with anger and rage and giving them helpful ways to express it. Um, yeah, I think there's
So
so much work to
interesting.
do
I
for girls.
think, yes, of course. One of the things I have worked hard on is telling my kids I don't know when I truly don't know something.
Mhm.
And also, I'm sorry when I've messed up. Those are two big ones for me. I didn't hear a lot of that growing up in my family of origin.
Mhm.
There was a lot of like, well, I know everything kind of
Mhm. Mhm.
from my parents.
Yeah.
And I've really worked hard to be like, you know what? I don't know. Let's go look that up. Let's see if we can figure that out together. But I
Yeah.
don't know. And I don't know what you need. Like they'll say, what should I do here? And I don't know what you need or what you want to do. I mean, I've got two teenagers and they're starting
Yeah.
to make some big decisions about what they want to do with their life. And I'm not here to tell them exactly what they're going to do with their life.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm sorry, that kind of weaves in with the like, I make mistakes all the time as a mom.
Mhm.
And admitting that I don't know everything and that sometimes I make mistakes has, I think, been a big part of my changing like the generational story that was handed to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that piece about repairing because that is the big thing that they're identifying. I also have a psych degree as like that's the big piece of trust. And so in a relationship with other people, you repair afterwards. And also repairing with yourself in times where maybe things didn't go, you didn't stand up or stand with yourself in the way that you would expect or hope to, you can repair that
Yeah.
self-trust as well. But I love that piece, doing that with your kids. That's a big one.
So, this is going to be a big question, but it's something I ask
Mhm.
everyone who comes on the Live with Liz series, which is this. What does it mean to you to be an empowered woman today in the modern world?
To always put my knowing first.
Okay, powerful. You're knowing before someone else's.
Mhm.
And how do you find
Yeah.
out? I mean, just how do you find out what your knowing is? How do you, if someone's listening to this and they say, well, I don't know what my knowing is.
Yeah. So there are two pieces to that. One, I would say, so I use a framework called the Pillars of Empowerment, and it has four pillars, and it's self trust, integrity, intuition, and sisterhood. And through those four things, by reclaiming those aspects, and there's obviously processes and things underneath each one. But through that, we reclaim our inner knowing. But the biggest piece that makes all of that work even possible is creating space. There's just not enough space in our modern life to slow down, to hear the inner knowing, to reconnect, to know who we really are. So we have to do the work to and create the space to do the work to scrape away the layers so that we can hear and reconnect to, for me, the knowing comes through the body. So reconnecting to your relationship with your body and hearing what your body has to say. Um, and letting that knowing kind of rise up. It's that gut feeling, and I think it's something we all have it. Everybody has the capacity, they're hearing it all the time. Um, but it's turning the volume up so that you hear it
I,
above everybody else.
I think this is more important than ever as we have AI. I mean, it was one thing to ask Google a question and to trust Google. Now with AI generating, interesting statements and content, I think it's more important than ever for women to have this connection to their own intuition. We're going to have, I feel like in the coming years, more and more AI kind of, I think, trying to write the script for us or present us with material
Mhm.
that's just at our, I mean, it's so easy at our fingertips to generate this, but what we really, it's that kind of AI generated, that kind of internet um, language is going to be totally useless if you don't know how it's going to apply to you and how it's going to impact you and what you want out of your life, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can't get an AI answer for what your purpose is here.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And my big thing is balance. And so when I talk about like kind of masculine and feminine and different things like that, my kind of feminist approach is not that we need to dismiss or downplay or lessen the masculine necessarily. It's that we need to elevate and raise up the feminine. So there is space for positive aspects of AI and positive aspects of the tools that are available to us. And we just have to check it and kind of balance it with what our knowing says, because it can be something very supportive of our knowing and very supportive of the impact or the mission that we're here to create. But again, yeah, just letting it come
Amplify.
from a grounded, authentic place
And
rather than just
amplifying that
words.
voice. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Emma, it has been fantastic to talk to you. I could talk to you all night about this stuff. Love it so much, and I love your energy. Tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you or follow along with your work.
Yeah. So my website's probably the best place. It's emmamulvany.com. But then also on Instagram, it's at empowerment by Emma with a couple underscores there. That's kind of where I hang out the most. And those are, yeah, definitely the best places to see what's happening and to reach out if you need anything.
Well, thanks so much, Emma. It was great to hear from you today. If you're listening to this and you would like to be interviewed on Live with Liz, I'll drop the link in the comments. We'd love to have you. I interview once a month a woman in our community who's making a difference. So thanks again, Emma, for sharing with us about female empowerment. It was great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.